You mentioned your brand, right? Do you make your own cigars?
We do.
You do.
Cream Dragon.
Wait, so I didn't. So hang on. All right. I just want the listeners. Let's go. So we didn't even talk about your family gun shop, but you have your cigar lounge, you have your cigar point of sale system, and now you have your own cigars.
Trying to be vertically integrated, man. I read this once in some ad somewhere. You should be vertically integrated. So I was like, oh, let's figure out what that means.
So are you hand rolling cigars at night in your basement? Like, we talk about you're making your own cigars.
Back to my child labor being a good thing.
So today on the New How podcast, we have Kosta Fotiadis.
Nailed it.
Did I nail it?
Nailed it.
Your real name's Constantine, right?
Konstantinos,
but everyone, you go by Kosta.
Kosta.
Cool. So give everyone a little background on Kosta. Kosta is an entrepreneur here in Philadelphia. Kosta's involved in a handful of businesses, a out-of-state gun shop, Smoke Cigar Lounge here on Main Street in Manayunk, and also the evil genius behind Toro point of sale system, which I'm sure we're going to get into a little bit and understand. But because I gotta first, because you're not from Philadelphia originally, much like me, right? We're from different states. Talk about you're from Indiana originally, my understanding. Correct. Talk about why Philadelphia. Why'd you come here to begin with?
Sum it up quick, I guess, is my father is from Greece. Came over as an illegal immigrant, got booted, came back again, met my mother, worked his way through New Jersey and Baltimore, came into Baltimore, worked through New Jersey, made it to Ohio. My mom was his waitress at a Shoney's in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Okay.
They ran off with each other and ended up in Indiana. And so my dad did construction his whole life. His goal was for me to go to college and not do construction. So I was a child laborer my entire life to help me prevent that. And finally got to graduate, went to Purdue, went in for engineering, switched to computer science. A lot of my buddies went military. I didn't because I had to go to college. Yeah. And so my dream was to work at Lockheed Martin. So I set up a whole campus program, backdoored my way into Lockheed Martin. A whole nother
backdoor hacked your way in, or like actually just like
I set up a campus. Basically, like they're gophers whenever they come to campus. Every time we would have a job fair, we'd bring in these corporations to do the job fairs, and we would assign one student to help that company out, get around
so you're
campus.
Like, I'm helping out Lockheed when they come here.
I started the campus gopher group.
Of course.
And so assigned me and my buddy to our two favorite companies. Mine was Lockheed. So by the time I came to my senior year for my interview, basically I knew I wasn't going to be smart enough on books and compared to everybody at Purdue to get into Lockheed Martin and do what I wanted to do. But by my senior year, I got an interview with them without doing a campus interview. So they flew me out to Philly. Valley Forge is the main campus where they do a lot of interviewing. And so that was my first time really going somewhere crazy outside of, Indiana. And so we did that and got the job. And when I got the job, we got to pick between California, Denver, Philly, and Florida. And I probably should have picked Denver, but I picked Philly because I loved history. And it was it was a big momental thing to come out here. So I ended up in Philly because of that job.
And you were a computer programmer for Lockheed. So you really can't say what you did. You just typed some numbers.
Yeah. Well, most of my career it was all unclassified stuff or classified stuff. Yeah. So that I can't really go into. But the end of my career there, we created a research and development group within Lockheed with a goal of taking current classified things or things that became declassified, repurposing them for the commercial world.
Oh, nice.
With Lockheed trying to expand, because every time we get a different president, it totally changes their budgets, obviously.
Of course.
So you're
doing stuff that you can't talk about, and then all of a sudden you got to the end there and you were like, wait, some of this stuff that is helping the world out in different ways. Yeah. We're going to kind of make it commercially available for other businesses or people to be able to use. So we took a piece of an algorithm that we basically wrote that was made to determine what things are flying through the sky. So heat signature, size, speed, angle of travel, all these different variables. And whenever we see this thing in the sky, we're looking at just as variables. And like this, you're like, all right, we know what kind of airplane that potentially is. Like
it's most likely a 737 with no door, or it's Brian with his drone, or it's North Korea, and this is a problem. Yeah. So we took that algorithm and applied it to our idea was, and it ended up working, which is awesome, was to apply it to sepsis. I learned about sepsis. Another guy on my team, he was big into it too. The sepsis is a terrible disease. Hospitals are straight up for profit. We all know this now at this point. And to save somebody from sepsis, it's like $7 test a day. Mm-hmm. But they can't do that $7 test on every person in the hospital because it's too expensive. And quite frankly, it's cheaper to pay out the lawsuit to the 2 people who died than it is to do this test on everybody. So we put that algorithm in, watch vitals and other lab works to determine whether or not somebody was potentially going septic.
Oh, wow.
And then spend the $7 on that one guy. And it
holy shit,
like 95%. And we end up selling it to UPenn. It's in process right now. Which also is what led me to quit working for Lockheed Martin.
Gotcha. No, I mean, look, everyone has. And how long were you at Lockheed for?
I was there from 2002 till 2014. So 12 years.
Oh, yeah. So 12 years of working on just stuff that maybe someday we'll learn about.
Yeah.
Amazing. So then, all right. So you're living in and around Philadelphia at this point. Cigars. Let's get into.
Yeah.
Talk about how you go from working on some of the most advanced technologies on the planet to, hey, I want to open a cigar shop.
Kind of comes down to the, how do I say this the right way? Meeting men is a hard thing to do. Making good friends is a hard thing to do. And especially for men to meet other men to hang out with. It's kind of an awkward thing that happens.
It's not like elementary school anymore. Like you're like,
especially when you're like a grown adult, or like, so you go to the bar, you're watching the Colts or watching Eagles. I mean, some guy who's cool into the day, like, hey man, let me get your number. Let's watch the game together again.
You're like, this guy.
You're like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm like, not like that dude. Just like, I'm new. I don't have any friends. I want to be your friend. And it just doesn't work.
You're so right, though. I mean, it's not.
And like every other city in the world, this kind of works. Philadelphia, this does not work. This is some of the weirdest quality of humans here.
In a good way.
They're diverse. But walk up to the street today, whoever's listening to this, and walk up to a random stranger, be very nice and cordial with them, and then be like, hey, man, let me grab your number and let's hang out sometime and see what happens. And then drive to Indiana and do the same thing. And they'll be like, yeah, man, here's my number. Let's get together Tuesday. And that's just, so I was just like, week after week, man, it was like easier to meet chicks than it was to meet dudes. And I was just like, this is terrible. So one day, randomly walking down the street, a random sucker punch happened, and it pretty much changed my whole life.
Someone sucker punched you?
Sucker punched me from behind.
And Kosta's not, by the way, he's not standing up right now.
I'm tiny.
He's not a tiny guy.
Weighing in 6'3". So I got hit from behind and it broke my jaw. And I didn't realize at the time my jaw was broke, found out the next day, but that pretty much changed my drinking career at Manioc, because when your jaw's wired shut, you can no longer really drink, because if you end up getting sick, you can die from your own vomit, right? So I one day was walking down the street. There was a cigar lounge where my current cigar lounge is. It's called Ashes at the time. And I was like, I'm going to pop in here and have a cigar. And I was like, I should be able to do that, right? And went in and was like, jaw shut like here, Aaron. I can't talk a lot, but
can I get your number?
Can I get your number? This won't be weird. Nothing too strange is going to happen here.
Unbelievable.
So ended up having a cigar with that guy and hanging out there. And instantly, a cool thing about cigar lounges, if you are new to a city and you don't have friends, even if you don't like cigars, fake like you like them, you will meet friends in a cigar lounge.
Absolutely.
So one thing is you get tied down. It's kind of the equivalent of golf for people. It's where people become better friends on a golf course because you're stuck with them for an amount of time. But in a cigar lounge, you're sitting down. There's nothing else to do but talk to the guy next to you. So you end up just making these friends more naturally, and then you don't force yourself on them and try to get their phone number. You just see them there the next week, and then over time you become friends. So I fell in love with cigars for what it brought to my sanity from a social level, and also got me away from drinking and all that, and more into something that put me on, also introduced me to a lot of the contacts I have now that helped me grow businesses and things like that.
Yep. And then, so you were in there and then you just decided, hey, I'm going to buy in or buy them out, or like how?
No. So he had a big flood happen. This would have been back in, I don't know the exact year of his flood. It's probably 2011 era, 2010. There was a flood in Manioc.
Yep.
And he got hit pretty hard. And so he ended up closing down as a result, and the building went vacant. And that was like the saddest day in my life and lots of other guys' lives, because that was every night of the week on the way home from work. We go straight there and hang out for 2-3 hours. All of us dudes were single. We'd eat order dinner together. Our weekends were spent there, and then we had nowhere to go. So it's like literally this weird family of people from like all over the world, all over the country for sure, that hang out at my shop. It's one of the things we kind of specialize in, like, oh, you're new to the neighborhood, like come join the family. So that closed about the same time. Was back to the Lockheed side. We won that proposal, sold this software to UPenn for a massive amount of money. Lockheed did. They made the money on it, obviously. And then we were offered what they call a spot award at Lockheed Martin, which is a very high prestigious award that you can get. And it equates to $500 bonus, which is very satisfying at all. Never.
You helped them sell this thing for a massive amount of money. They're like, hey, by the way, we're going to give you this like glass plaque with your name on it, and here's a $500 check.
Not even glass plaque, man. It is like the participation trophy of certificates that you can hang on your wall in your cube, and you're supposed to feel warm and fuzzy about it. And all that happens. I go to my manager. I'm like, look, I was one of the leads on the team. I was like, I just want to take my guys on vacation. Like, I'm gonna pay for it. Can you just give us a week off? Yeah. He's like, we can't do that. Corporate this, that structure. Like, you should be proud of Spot Award. And before we got the Spot Award, I straight went to him. I was like, do not give me a Spot Award. Like, everything you know about me, a Spot Award's like, you might as well slap me in the face.
Punch you in the back of the head.
He's like, you know how this works, man. You're going to get a Spot Award for this. I was like, I don't want a Spot Award. Don't do it. So we get it. And I just went to him right after me. I was like, I asked you not to do that very kindly. I like $500 after taxes is like $300. You divide that out on the year. Like, I can buy an extra Chipotle burrito every week. Like, yeah. And you guys made millions. And so that was the moment where I realized that working for somebody else was not going to work for me, because when you succeed, you don't get the recognition, which is really kind of trickled down into all my life now, of making sure that you got to take care of the people that make you successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that day I was like, I don't know when I quit, but this is my notice, and one day I will not be here. And that's when it began.
And that's where you're like, I'm going to start the cigar lounge. I'm going to bring back this family of guys, and I'm going to start getting into an industry.
Yeah, that place closes, and it was closed for a while. And I went through a weird part of life and was just like, why am I even out here in Philadelphia? I don't want to work at this company. That's the whole reason I came here. Yep. The people here aren't super welcoming, and I'm not creating a family and culture here that I had back home. I have I was driving home once a month in Indiana. It's like a 10, 11 hour drive just to see my lifelong friends and family, really close knit with my family. I was like, I should probably just move back home. And so I took 3 days vacation, and I was going to ride my motorcycle and just clear my head before I made a rash decision to move all the way back there. And literally the first day driving down from my house to Main Street to head to Kelly Drive, the landlord was putting a for rent sign on the building. And it was like I'm all about universe and all this and that, and fate and karma and all that makes sense. But like, when some of those things happen, you're just like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, you gotta like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, it happens all the time.
That's not what I wanted to happen.
You're like, okay,
yeah. So game time. I call up the guys that we smoke cigars with. I was like, we need to have a call tonight. We need to get together for a cigar. I'm like, I don't know who should reopen this place, but we should reopen this place. I was like, I'm not opposed to being the guy, because I kind of hate my life at Lockheed. I'm ready to move home. This would keep me here. And one of them was 100% in, but he had a really good job. So he's like, I'll invest. And the other ones didn't have enough money to invest the time, but they love the idea that like, we will, or whatever you need to help you build it up.
Build it, whatever. On Saturday, Sundays, I'm there swinging hammers. Exactly. Love it.
So went back to my college days, got one of my best friend from college. He came in as a business partner. He was back at Purdue doing his MBA. He brought in an MBA colleague of his to join the team. And so came in with 3 partners, and we opened it, and never worked retail in my life, never owned a business in my life. Never sold anything.
So it was out of like pure passion of like wanting this collective group of guys, this family of guys that you were single guys who were getting together, and just that was the vision at that time. Like, let's get everybody together.
Yeah, it worked, man. It was the first place I've ever seen in my life where age didn't matter, race didn't matter. Not a ton of females come in and are into cigars. Unfortunately, every female that comes in, their palates are exceptionally better than men, and they learn way quicker. So I feel like if you're out there and you're a girl looking at the camera, you should try a cigar.
Try a cigar.
Come in, I'll teach you everything about it, school you up. We do a whole thing with like a women's program to help get them covered because it's a heavily dominated male industry. But the reality is, it's for anybody and everybody. It's a social thing. It's a good way to sit down, spend an hour, call it meditation, call it whatever you want. You can do it alone. You can do it with somebody. You'll become friends with that person. I don't care if you're a hardcore Republican who loves and hates this, and they're a hardcore Democrat who loves and hates this. By the end of a cigar, want to grab dinner together, and that's the magic of them. I don't know why. It's just people put their guard down. All of a sudden, the things that matter don't matter.
So you opened this. What year do you think? What year was this when Smoke originally opened?
2013.
Okay, 2013. You opened Smoke.
Yep.
Fast forward, now we're 2024. 11 years. Smoke is still open.
Smoke is still open.
Did it last longer than the prior business that was there?
Yeah, he was there about a year and a half.
Wow, a year and a half. So a year and a half, that prior so he shuttered because of the flood, which a lot of businesses unfortunately do, and I can relate. Reopen it, 11 years strong, and you built this community. It's still going on. You still have memberships, right? I still have guys from the old place was called Ashes. A lot of the guys I met from there, my business partner I met from there, and several of the guys that I smoked cigars with back at Ashes are still members today at Smoke. Amazing. Now I want to understand. So I know what Toro is, but I need the listeners, I want them to understand kind of how you took this concept and what the need of what Toro is. I want you to explain to the audience, what is Toro now? Because is it smoke? Is it not smoke? Talk about what that is.
Smoke is now the beta testing ground for Toro, so I'd say.
It's like the incubator.
Yeah, and Toro is one of the things that has made Smoke last 10 years. Okay. Toro is something that makes me have free time in my life, which is a big part of it. One of the big things I learned at corporate life and any job you work, anytime you work for somebody, there was a weird realization that hit me one day. I was like, this guy's literally paying me for my time in my life because he doesn't want to do this work in his life, or you're scaling it or whatever, but they're literally buying your life. Every time you get a paycheck, that is the price of what that 40 hours of your life was worth to somebody else. And hopefully it's worth that amount to you. And really it's not. And a lot of people feel trapped. So for me, starting Smoke was like, cool, I'm gonna work for myself. I'm gonna have so much free time. It's gonna be easy. We're just gonna smoke cigars with my homies. I already got this down to a science. It's a terrible idea. One of the worst ideas I've ever had. It's not that.
You work your ass off in the beginning.
The number of hours I work is way more than 40. If you own a small business and you are working 40 hours, you are not making or benefiting from your thing that you created as much as you could, which is kind of sad, kind of disrupting, kind of everything happens in there, which is also frustrating because it's not what your goal was originally. And I know people that work 40 hours and they're happy, and that's fine. You created a salary for yourself, and it happens a lot in a lot of cigar shops. Like they reach a point of sales where they've replaced their original job. And that is success. And that is success. I mean, dude, you remove the man and you are the man in your own life and you got your salary back. That's awesome. For me, it's not money. Money is never the variable in my life. It's freedom and time. Like I want to be able to do what we're doing right now in the middle of the day because that's what I wanted to do today.
So Toro,
Toro is because of that. So that's kind of what I was getting to. Toro, its big value to me is the free time around me. So its original name was Hellas Bay.
Okay, I like Toro way better.
Toro is way better. Hellas Bay does not land with my average cigar store owner, which you can imagine what that person is. And he's definitely not under 55. So Hellas Bay Hellas is Greek in Greek. So if you're in Greece and you say Hellas, it means Greece, and then Bay is the Philly slang for before anyone else, like your girlfriend. So Hellas Bay became my girlfriend at Smoke. In a way that it took things off my plate that it was better at than me, so I could focus my time.
Toro essentially it's a point of sale system, right? It's a technology platform that I just wanted to, because I know what it is.
For those of those wondering, what the hell is Toro?
It's a technology platform that overlays on top of cigar lounges or cigar shops.
Yeah, so essentially its core is I present it to my customers of Toro as a POS system. So think if you're going to buy a coffee and they flip the little clover term around, that is a POS, which stands for point of sale.
But it's specific to cigar shops.
Specific to cigar shops, mainly because I didn't ever think it would be a business.
Yeah.
So when I opened Smoke, we were like, I think it was like 3 days before open, and my business partner was Joe. He's like, when do we get when are we getting our POS? I'm like, the one thing I should be great at, I totally forgot about. Like, we don't have a POS system.
Like, wait a second. How are we bringing in these cigars?
No clue, man. Lots of learning lessons here. So
I love this business.
I was like, I need the next 2 days. Like, you're gonna have to tidy up the rest of Smoke. And I went home and I wrote a very quick, basically glorified calculator program from scratch just to get us through.
And that was
the first
like
week or two.
That was the initial beta. That's of what Toro is today.
Toro started. Yeah, it was just, I need some way to record these transactions with a sole purpose of we opened in December, the trade shows in July. I was like, if I can make something to just store our transactions off, I saved every transaction to a text file. I was like, then one day when we get to the trade show, then I'll buy a POS system. I'll then write software to import these into whatever I buy. I do not want to write software again. I'm done with that part of my life. I've moved on. I'm done. Come July, I go to the trade show.
And this is July
2014.
2014.
Yep,
all right,
next trade show, and I go to every trade and up until July, I went through and looked at other POS systems that were on the market, just because I was like, maybe there's not a cigar specific one, maybe there's one that does kind of what I'm looking for to do, because I didn't want just a point of sale. I wanted customer service built into it, inventory stuff built into it.
You want like membership, like CRM type stuff, right? Like, because I know, because I've experienced your shop, right? I get a text message like, hey, by the way, this my favorite cigar that I had at your shop, like, oh, magically I get 10% off.
Yeah. Magic. Very magical.
Oh my God. How'd they know?
Yep. So we go to trade show, do demos with everybody. They're all terrible. None of them do exactly what I wanted. Not terrible. They're fine. They check the boxes for people who want to run a shop.
But you also have a coding background working on some of the most advanced technologies in the world. Yeah. And you're like, it doesn't do fucking memberships.
Like how do you not do some core basic things to make my life easier? Yeah. So that's where it was born. So it became my side business partner in the business. And one of the things like you always hear is like you only have so much time, right? Mm-hmm. And you run out of it eventually and you can't buy it. Yep. And I think that's super false. I think you can always buy time because everybody is inefficient in every area of their life. So if I can spend 1 hour writing a piece of code that saves me 1 hour next week and 1 hour the next week, I've essentially saved myself an hour a week for the rest of my life where I can now do something else. I bought time essentially. And it changed it. So at that point I'm spending maybe 10 hours a week on ordering, maybe, an hour a week on payroll, just all these little things, 2-3 hours a day reaching out to customers, trying to stay very involved in them. And so I just kept adding stuff to it every time I could get a chance to write code. And if you're in my shop on day one, my laptop was the POS. It was also where I set. Yep. And if you walked in and then another guy walked in, I'd set that guy next to you, introduce you to, so you two could talk. So I could come over here and write more code so I could free up more time in my life. And then that grew into this beast. And like about 3-4 years into developing that, I was like, I should probably build in a credit card processor to it. And so I found a local guy, built him in, and then he called me one day and was like, hey, I have a store down in Baltimore. Shout out to Chris from Humidor on the Hill. He is
Chris from Humidor on the Hill.
That was my guy. If you're ever in Baltimore, hit that shop up. One of the most beautiful shops I've ever been to in my life. But he's one of the big dogs in the whole cigar industry. And like TA shop, which is the top 100 shops. And he had reached out to his credit card processor and said he was looking for a new POS. Did he know of anything? So that guy calls me. His name's Paul. Shout out to Paul. And Paul calls me. He's like, hey, I have a guy down in Baltimore who needs a new POS. Would you be interested? I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah,
this is not a company. This is not a POS. This is
my girlfriend you're talking about.
Yeah, it was like on my laptop. I don't even know how to put it on another computer yet. Like there's so much configuration. Like you couldn't add a new item without going into the database. There's not screens for things that you need to do because it's for me. It's my thing for me to help me. So he's like, I think you should talk to this guy. It could change the direction of what you're doing. I was like, fair enough. So I drive down to Baltimore. This guy, he's like, you're probably going to hate this guy. He's like, just but hear him out. I was like, all right. So I get there and I hate this guy. He pulls out like a stack of sheets. His wife, Feeney, sweetheart, love you, Feeney. But Chris pulls out this list and he's like, here's what I need you to do for me. And I'm just like,
what?
Yeah, he's like, we're gonna go through them. You're gonna tell me if you can or can't do them, and if you will do them, if you can't do them. I'm like, okay. And so for about an hour, I just sat there and said no a whole lot of all the things I couldn't do, which was a very eye-opening moment for me because I thought I had it streamlined at my shop and I was way ahead of the curve of everybody else. Yep. And it was like an eye-opening moment. And then you look at his store and I hear his sales. And if you're in TAA, that means you have to at least do $1 million a year in cigars only.
Wow. Just the cigar, not
just
even
cigars.
Like, just like, wow.
No accessories. I'm doing like maybe 180,000.
And this guy's doing $1 million
at least $1 million
in Baltimore, an hour and a half from your shop.
So I'm like, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so as he's listening to things, I'm just like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I don't need that. And then on my drive home, I'll like never forget. I was like, I should probably be doing these things. There's a reason why somebody doing this level of volume is successful. And there's a reason why, but I was happy again, back to the guy and whoever, has created their salary. I created my Lockheed Martin salary. I'm good. Like life's good. I'm smoking cigars and I got my salary back. So I'm fine.
Yep.
But that was a moment where I was like, man, if I did this differently, what could smoke become? And so I ended up calling him up and I was like, hey, I'm going to go back through this list with you of what I think I can do easily and what will take me time to do. And let's see where we end up. And we just made an agreement that I was like, about half the things on his list, I was like, I can do those and I can do those fairly quickly. And that was like the busiest 2 months of my life. I was like, there's a small window here because this guy's ready to find something. And if I can prove to him that I can find these.
But there's probably also nothing out there, right? Like there was also like, he needed this stuff because he couldn't find an integration with Clover or one of these other point of sale systems that already exist, right? Like Square has probably nowhere even close to what you're doing.
Doesn't even touch it, man. It's just, it's because most softwares that are written by, you have an idea, you go to a software guy, he builds your idea, but you're not there with him every day. When he's done, you're happy overall, but like there's like 40 things that if they worked a little bit differently, it would be easier. Any software you use, you feel that way about. That's because software is written by software engineers and we are nerds who sit in a corner and we type things and we don't know about your business. You give us a list of requirements and we check the requirements, but the usability is not great. And the integrations with this and that and every little nitpicky thing isn't in there because the requirements didn't have those in there and we work off requirements. So this was written from, I gave away requirements, never even wrote them up for the software. It was, what do I need to run this business and do it quick and efficient and save me time? So he couldn't find anything. So I started going through that list. We checked them all off. I put it in his store. I wasn't even able to make barcodes or print barcodes at that point. This is like super early in the process. He's like, man, you have to have that. Like that's the last piece. So I didn't even at that point have a barcode scanner or a barcode printer.
It's part of this whole POS.
That's part of this whole thing. So I actually drove down and stayed at his shop, and you can call him and verify this. I lived in his shop for 2 days straight. 3 full days, 2 overnights, showered at his cigar shop. Like he left me alone there and I worked for 3 straight days, did not sleep and got it done before his biggest event. And he was like, at that point, he's like, you don't do everything I want you to do, but I'm in. Yeah. He's like, you just proved it to me.
So this was your first, Paul, right?
Chris.
Chris is now your first customer. Of Toro that's not using it as a point of sale in your smoke shop, but like, wait, Toro could actually become a software that I give to guys like Chris. And
then Chris is like, hey man, he's like, if you nail off the rest of these things, he's like, I'll get you other stores. He's like, we don't have anything like this. You're already doing great. He technically was my very first customer. My very first one was my first employee I had. Her mom owned a cigar shop in New Jersey and her mom needed a POS. I thought it was a terrible idea. It ended up being a terrible idea because it was too early in the process. And she loves me. She's like my mother in the cigar industry, but she's like, this isn't ready for me. It's too complicated. I don't understand it, which I totally understood. So that was technically the first, but Chris is the first that was like willing to ride the wave with me and
help you build it correctly,
build it out. And to his defense, he got a custom developer for the last 8 years who built him exactly what he needs to run his store perfectly. Yep. My store is a leech off his store, and I learned things from him. I learned new processes, new everything. I built every one of those things in for him.
It's amazing.
So now it's a full-blown POS system that has like every window it needs. It does every management part of my store and things I learned at Lockheed, like apply to it.
Like if I'm an employee, I can come in and check in and like clock in through this as well.
Yeah.
Like,
so employees come in, they clock in. When they clock in, they get a printout of the 9 cigars I want them to sell today, which is the 9 worst selling cigars in my shop: 3 mild, 3 medium, 3 full body, and 3 price points. That's all integrated in with the way we order. The ordering's automatic. When I used to spend 10 to 20 hours a week.
I just want to back you up a second. So if I'm an employee, this point of sale system knows that like, hey, these 9 cigars aren't moving, or like these are like not performing how other ones are.
Rotates literally every hour. It reevaluates it and tells them what the next 9 cigars are to sell constantly. Because one of the worst things we found in all cigar shops now that I have data is about 10% of my SKUs make up about 50% of my sales. It's kind of the 20-80 rule. And it really is 20-80 rule, but it's way worse in cigar shops. It's like 10-50. Then the other 90%, 40 of those account for about 40% of sales. And then your bottom 50% of SKUs are only about 10% of sales, which is wild. So you're sitting on this big room full of cigars.
Because it's like you almost like, because I just put myself in there when I'm going to a cigar shop. It's like you want to see all the cigars, right?
You
it's
have
like
to.
It's like
I need about 17 cigars in my store to do about the exact same number of sales I do. I have about 500 because if you walk in and you see 17 cigars, I'm a terrible store.
Correct.
How many things do you buy at the grocery store? You buy the same bag of chips every time.
What if they weren't cigars? What if it looked like they were cigars, but they were just fake cigars?
We've thought about this.
New idea for Toro.
Yeah, so that's kind of our model now.
You have 500 cigar types in your shop, but like only 17 of them are actually making the revenue. Because it's like that nuanced one. Like, oh my God, do you have that? You know,
you got to evolve, right? So you've been in my shop now versus 10 years ago, or the first couple times you guys came in, we had a big walk-in humidor. So simple math, just go down a rabbit hole real quick. 500 cigars in my walk-in humidor. Say the average cigar cost me $5. And there's 20 count in a box. So 500 times 5, 2,500 times 20, $50,000 is in that room. I know our walk-in humidor when it was full was about $75,000 worth of inventory sitting in a 10-foot by 16-foot room to sell you $10. Like that's a lot of things. That's on display. Up top, I have another $70,000, right? So that's our evolution of Smoke. One of the reasons why I think we've stayed in business is during COVID, we switched to that wall model where we have our cigars on display. Now the math is totally different. You walk in there, you still see the same 500 cigars, but there's only a single on display. Yeah. Which means on display, I now have $2,500 on display instead of $50,000.
Yeah. And if someone takes us or a crate, you order another one or one box and whatever. Now you're back.
And we know that people generally buy all of these, but they need to see all of these.
Yeah, they want to.
So all these in the back room, we might only have 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. So if you demand that you really want that cigar, that's cool. We got it. But we'll also invest the time in teaching you about our brand and a few other brands and try to shift you into the bucket we want.
So you mentioned your brand, right? So do you make your own cigars?
We do.
You do.
Cream Dragon.
Wait, so I didn't. So hang on. All right. I just want the listeners. Let's go. So we didn't even talk about your family gun shop, but you have your cigar lounge, you have your cigar point of sale system, and now you have your own cigars.
Trying to be vertically integrated, man. I read this once in some ad somewhere. You should be vertically integrated. So I was like, oh, let's figure out what that means.
So are you hand rolling cigars at night in your basement? Like, we talk about you're making your own cigars.
Back to my child labor being a good thing. No, so years ago, my first year opening the shop, I got invited on a trip down to Honduras to one of my manufacturers. Went down there, got to see the end-to-end process. Mind boggled me how much I didn't know about the industry that I just dove in, head first. Even the first time somebody walked in my store, I remember my business partner said, I was like, I don't know how to sell a cigar. I don't know how to sell anything. I don't even know anything about all these cigars. I did like half of them I never even had. It was like, that's what everybody carries. So that's what I carry. I knew what I liked. And the whole thing was just a bad idea. The fact that we're here is wild to me. So I go down to Nicaragua or Honduras. A couple years later, I do a trip to Nicaragua. The factories that take you down there, they present it as this is a scary place. It's dangerous. The whole world feels that way about Central America. It's dangerous, scary. We had to stay in their compound. We had an armed guard with us at all times. And I took, the wrong guys with me from Philly who were like not going to play by those rules. Yeah. And we decided we weren't going to do that. And we were going to go explore the town. And
you're just going to go explore Nicaragua?
Yeah. So that's what we did. And that was the end of that contract with that company. They got very mad. They're like, this is not safe. We went out, had one of my favorite nights of my life. Most of these guys had never left the country. Yep. So it was their first time ever. They had to get passports to go on this trip. That mind blown ever, man. Just like watching grown men experience a brand new thing they've never seen. It's like the coolest thing in the world. So that night opened my eyes and I was like, I'm coming back, and I'm coming back alone, and I'm going to do some backpacking and kind of explore it. So about that time I hired Eli, who's my current GM, who is the GOAT. And so I hit him up. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to go work on my software for a bit and leave you alone with the store and see how you do. And that'll also tell me things I need to do for me as a, pseudo absentee owner, because I'm starting to think that Toro might become a thing. And that'll show me what else I need to build in to help me be a good absentee owner. So I ended up, before going to Nicaragua, I went over to Europe for the big, the World Trade shows in Dortmund, Germany. Went to that, met a guy there who was awesome. He's like, man, you should come down to Spain. And he's like, when are you heading back? I was like, I don't have any return flight yet. I was just kind of going to play it by ear. Ended up going to his house. His name's Igmar, one of the coolest humans ever. Welcomed me with open arms. He was actually a lead developer on Candy Crush at the time.
Oh my God.
I had no clue. Pulls in 10 mil a day in in-store purchases. Just learning all this stuff. So I'm working in his office with him. We're bonding up good. We're brainstorming. And a week went by, 2 weeks went by. He's like, when you planning on leaving? I was like, when you kick me out, man.
You're in Spain right now.
I love it, dude.
Living with
Barcelona, gorgeous.
Yeah, of course.
Philly architecture on steroids. Yeah. Look up Gaudi if you've never seen Barcelona's architecture. It's beautiful.
Barcelona's a beautiful spot. It really
amazing.
Is.
So end up spending almost 3 months at his house until he finally was like, all right, man, it's time.
Your passport or your visa is probably ready to give out.
I had to bounce countries and we worked all that out. So left there, came back home, and then checked in on Eli. He's like, man, I'm good. I was like, cool, then I'm gonna go to Nicaragua. So went down to Nicaragua. About that time, my best friend Joe, his shop closed in Arizona, some landlord issues. And he was all depressed about it. So I messaged him. I was like, hey, I'm in Nicaragua. Why don't you come down and hang out with me for a week? I'll get your flight, whatever it is. Come down, just clear your head, right? He comes down. We get a old Land Cruiser and we road trip the entire country and had the greatest 3 months of our life. I'm working on software every day. He's smoking cigars, chasing chicks, and fell in love with it. Never came home. Still is there.
Still there?
Still is there today.
Oh my God. So now he's a citizen of Nicaragua? Or?
No, you have to leave every 90 days. So every 90 days they do a road trip to Costa Rica. There's a big group of guys on there.
Passport,
go across, stamp back in. Yep. So through all that, and me going back down to visit him all the time, me and him ended up getting a house down there. Greatest place to retire if you're wanting to retire out of this country. Our house is 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms on 10 acres on the side of a volcano for $300 a month. Hang on. We have to pay our electricity bill though.
How much is that?
So the peak was when me and Kimberly went down there last year. We spent 3 weeks at his house, and he was super mad about the electricity bill. It was $12
for the month
because we had our computers plugged in the whole time.
So 4 bath house in Nicaragua monthly costs you $300, and the electric bill's $12
on a high month. And he's mad because he's his budget's $3. Holy
shit!
But you have to remember, these people make $7 to $10 a day. So
yeah,
$12 is a lot. Whatever you make in a full day, imagine that being your electric bill. It's all relative. But when you're going down there with American money, it's highly affordable, right? So in all that, Joe being down there a ton, me going down there and visiting a lot, we started meeting people in smaller factories and just beautiful, amazing people. We also weren't the average guys going down to Nicaragua. There's a lot of seedy people in the cigar industry who just aren't, who think they're cool because they have more money than those people. I think it's a terrible look. These people are super poor, man. Like quite literally no water in their house, dirt floors, no lights. Like that is a norm. Their houses, like if you look at the corrugated metal going around smoke, that idea is from there, man. That's what they build their houses out of. And so one of the factory owners, he's an amazing dude. His wife's like our mother cooks us dinner when we're down there. Like when I'm down there, we go to her house and hang out. And so he started making cigars for us. And that's where Cream Dragon came about. So,
amazing. So you have factory operations now in Nicaragua making cigars, and you're distributing them just at your shop, or are you distributing them elsewhere to other shops now?
Yeah, so brand new. Started in February. Just one night was like literally sitting down having a Cream Dragon. I was like, why don't I Cream Dragon's changed my life at Smoke and Smoke's budget because we buy them in such bulk and because there's no middleman. Because I work directly with Nicaraguans, we get them for exponentially cheaper than we could buy any other cigar. Yep. That said, there's 10 years of flights and 10 years of all the other overhead to get there. Because people are sometimes like, yeah, but that's only $3. Why would you charge this? I'm like, it's the $20,000 it cost me to get there. Like I'll probably never get back. I don't even care. What it took to get to this point, to build this relationship to get this price, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so valuable.
But having a high profit item like that has changed Smoke's life, right? It's made Smoke a highly productive business and successful. So now that I have Toro and we're in 62, 63 stores.
Hang on, I just wanted everyone to hear that. How many stores are you in?
62 or
You're now
3.
in 60.
In fact, I don't know. It's scary.
That's a good problem to have. It's a good first world problem to have. But you're in let's call it 60 plus shops.
60 plus.
You're in 60 plus shops.
And that's the wild part of that is it was 8 shops, which were Chris, a couple of Chris's homies, and a couple of my homies until about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, you said, screw it. I'm going to blow Toro out and try to get it.
I went to a trade show. My new credit card guy is like, we should do a booth at the trade show. AKA, he always has a booth at the trade show, but it's a credit card guy.
But it's trying to sell credit card, right? He's the credit card guy. You
need both.
Of course.
And for him, I am customer retention because credit card guys are a dime a dozen.
Of course.
And they're all kind of like,
but they use your software. They realize it's the best on the market.
Then we tie in. Exactly.
Amazing.
It was like, I'd love to have you come down and be in my booth with me. I think I'd do better business and I'll cover the cost of the booth. Just why don't you come down and hang out? And if people want to talk about POSs, then we'll talk about it. Turns out nobody wants to talk to him ever. And we are slammed. So he is now.
Wait, tell me about how do you process payments? That guy. Screw that guy.
Yeah. Like Toro's like, he's now a Toro employee essentially. So when people come to the booth, he's talking to them about Toro.
Here, let me hook you up with my credit card.
Yeah. They're like, who do we have for credit cards? I'm like, don't worry about that. That's that guy over there, Mitch. He'll handle that. And he's awesome, man. He's become super a big piece of Toro because we have such a good, tight relationship where he's built trust. Like my customers, no retailer likes their POS. Yeah. If you like your POS and you're a retailer, please call me and tell me what it is because I'd love to hear the story of why you like it, unless you custom built it. But if you bought a commercially made one, it doesn't fit your needs perfectly. And then we all hate our credit card processor because they're over here making like 2-3% on all of our hard work, which adds up at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
So to find this credit card processor, I've worked out a deal with him where our rates are extremely low. Tobacco is considered a high risk credit card processing, so we get pretty hit bad on rates. Yep. I worked out a deal with him that we weren't going to do contracts and we're going to give people the best rate on the market, period. Yeah. And he would stop worrying about chasing customers because our customers won't leave.
Of course.
We take care of them. So that's now in my booth. If you were to go to our booth just a couple of weeks ago out in Vegas, we were at the PCA trade show. My booth is me, Joe, my fiance, Kimberly, Mitch, and then typically 5 or 6 other people that are actually users of my software who hang out in our booth and talk to other potential customers. I don't give them any credits. I don't give them anything.
But they just know, they know the impact that your software is making to the industry, and it's streamlining it. It's making it's making a tough industry.
Giving me my time back, man.
Giving people not only their time back, but giving them the ability to operate a cigar shop like anywhere in the globe, right? Yep. At such a high level. It's amazing. Yeah. It's crazy when I step back, right? You're working on software that's literally globally changing the face of our planet, industry, right? And now you're doing that for the good of cigars, right? Like globally, like you're in 65 stores. Like how many cigar shops are out there? Like what is your vision for this?
World domination, man.
Cigar domination. Cigar nation.
Yeah, we've branched out. So back to the gun shop, quick touch on that. So my first business ever was a gun shop that I invested in a couple of buddies that wanted to start a gun store. They're doing great. They're in they own 2 stores now. They're franchising. They have 2 more. They have like 4 more franchises come on. So we made another version of Toro for gun stores.
Gunno. What do you call it?
It's oddly enough still the OG name of Hellas Bay, which is terrible. Bay, right? So Hellas Bay is terrible because when you're at a cigar trade show, talk to some dude who's like 70, they're like just lost on
it. So now you're altering this software. It's not just for cigars now. You're trying to make it applicable to other retail markets.
Yeah, because the reality is it doesn't matter what your retail is. It works for all retailers.
There's still barcodes on other things. It's how do we make that, and how
there's
do you
nothing really like hard. The hardcore specific side of it with cigars is it comes preloaded with all the cigars in it.
But you can still send out, hey, get 10% off this your favorite AR.
Yeah, exactly. So all the automation and that and the ordering. I mean, most retailers' problems are like, what should I order? What's not moving in my store? How do I keep in touch with my customers? Are they trending up, trending down?
The what's not moving thing is huge, especially because even in the retail space, like, look, I think of just like grocery stores, right? Like I'm sure they have a system, but like, does it really tell them what cereals are moving quicker than others? I don't know.
That's oddly enough where I learned a lot of this from. So problem with cigars and good thing is they don't expire. Yeah. Right. As long as you keep them in humidity and temperature, they're good forever. Yep. There's a point where they start diminishing returns and they start losing their flavor, but
that's could be years.
Yeah, right? It could be years out, 5, 10 years. 10 years. Usually they're still good, and usually they're better the more time they sit. And I was helping a guy go through his whole. He had like a little healthy food grocery store, and we were going through checking all the expiration dates every month, and we. Like whatever we found that was expired, we got to keep. And I was like, let us at least pay for the cost on this. He's like, it's my damaged goods. Basically, it's a write-off. Like, it is what it is. We have to get rid of it. I was like, that hurts my head. Every month you're losing like $5-6 grand worth of product. Like, how do you know what's moving? How do you know what's not? Like, how can we prevent this from happening? He's like, it hurts my head. You have $250,000 worth of inventory in your store, which he knew because he asked me what my number was. That's what we were at that point. He's like, you have $250,000 worth of inventory and you don't know what's moving and you have no intention of figuring that out. And you act like this stuff never goes bad. He's like, what if cigars expired in 60 days? I was like, everything would be different. Yeah. He's like, what if you ran your shop that way? And that's what we started doing.
And that's how it started.
We dropped our inventory. We do, I don't know if I want to go into numbers on here or not, but our inventory used to be about 7 times what our retail was for the month.
Wow. So that's the amount of inventory you're keeping versus what you're selling.
Holding 7 times worth of inventory. So and that's a good store. I am way below the industry average.
Roughly.
Less than what we do in retail. Yeah. So I'll make up even numbers. Yeah. So 200, when you're doing like 50,000 a month in sales, the average store has about $400,000 worth of inventory. We had about $250,000 worth of inventory,
which is still good.
Which is better
than the industry average.
Better than the average.
But now you're telling me if you're doing 50,000 a month, you're holding less than 50,000
at 80% of our inventory.
Holy shit! Yeah. And it's because the system helps you reorder. It helps you
constantly reordering, paying attention to what's moving, what's not moving. If it's not moving, we're getting rid of it. It's in a different pipeline. So this really applies to all retailers. Like if you own a retail store and you have lots of products or 5 products, doesn't matter. Like you got to know, and a big part of retail is when to order, right? When to order and how much to order. So you don't want to order too much of something because they'll give you this 25% discount if it's not going to move for the next 3 years.
So now you also have the data behind it to know, like, hey, I sell this product once every week or 10 times a day.
Daily burn rate, weekly burn rate, monthly burn rate. And then when a deal comes in, we can plug it into there. And then based off this deal, it'll tell me this is it's a 25% off deal. But when you buy this, these 10 SKUs, you'll have about a 6-month supply. The way you're moving these 10 SKUs that are also part of this deal are going to last you for 7 years. Amazing. Like, bad deal. This is not a good deal. Doesn't matter. You could give me 50% off, and this is still a bad deal. If I buy this box of
cigars for $500 at 10% off, but I'm going to hold them for the next 8 years, like
totally normal in the cigar industry.
Totally normal. You could show people their rate of return. I think you should add a module just for fun, and you call it the Corco module. I want you to compare that depreciation or that cigar losing of cash compared to like the S&P 500, right? 100%. So like that $500 you'd invest in that box of cigars versus put it in the S&P and watching the change. Can you add that module for me?
I'll add that for you. I'll do that. I'm actually curious. It'd be interesting because if you're not performing at the S&P level, then you might as well just put your money in the stock market and move on.
Compare it to Bitcoin, compare it to like also compare it to gold, it would be hilarious. And like have it flash red, be like, don't buy it.
It's terrible. It's such, these trade shows are like a breeding ground for like bad business. And that's what happens.
But like eventually you're going to have, and you probably already are, but like the amount of data you're curating across all these shops, right? Like you're going to be able to eventually go back to these cigar manufacturers and be like, your product's shit, or you're doing really good. And if you altered it like this, or, by the way, your 6-inch cigars are selling way better than your 8-inch cigars, whatever.
Exactly.
Right. So
the data has become like the big part of it. So a big part of our problem in the cigar industry is FDA, right? Yeah. And tobacco is like hands down the most hated product in the world, or in the US, at least as far as like legislation goes. Like quite literally, we get grouped into a category called shaft, which is sex. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Terrible. Sex, hate, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Oh, wow. So when I'm setting up a text message account for a customer, quite literally, if you were a member of a hate crime group, I could get you a text message account in about 24 to 48 hours. Okay. All right. Guns, 24 hours. So not as bad as hate. Okay. There's arguable whatever on that. Sex, about the same. Alcohol, it's like a couple hours. Okay. Like 2 hours, I can get approved. Tobacco, about a week and a half. Oof. If I was to if I would be a member of a hate group, I like straight hate group, like freedom of speech hate group, like think the worst. Like I could get the KKK a text message account quicker than I could get Smoke a text message.
That's nuts.
Yeah, this is like a future lawsuit one day where it's the cell phone providers. They have their own organization called CTIA that sits on top of them. Verizon, AT&T, all these guys. T-Mobile's kind of the worst of them, it seems like. But they actually can dictate what text you can receive at your phone. Gotcha. And unless I'm registered,
based on the registration of the business behind it.
Yeah.
But you're telling me if I opened up a brothel, a legal brothel in Vegas, I could be texting my clients quicker than I could text hookah or cigar lounge.
Yes.
That's insane.
And you're a grown adult who pays for your cell phone bill, who walked into my store, showed me your ID, I scanned it. You said, please send me text messages about your 10th anniversary party, Kosta. I said, okay, I added you. And then if I don't register with them, and it takes me a week and a half and lots of money, like a lot of money I've involved in getting this set up, then when I send you that text, they will block it from coming to your phone that you asked to receive the text on.
What?
Which is like the most wild.
No one knows that even exists.
No, it's the most wild thing. Like Google Shaft and cell phone providers as well. So that's, I don't even know how we got on Shaft, but whatever. Yeah, it's wild. So
you have to work with that all around the system and everything. That's crazy.
There's all that. So we go through all the process of getting them registered for that. But being able to do all those text messages is, it's the best marketing you possibly get. Like email marketing, of course. 12% text is 99% of text are open in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They don't go bad.
So truly remarkable story. So now I want to pick your brain a little bit. Last 10 minutes, I want to pick your brain on like lessons learned, right? Like there's a lot of people listening to this, like, holy shit, you can't like it's just, you had a vision of literally being like, I'm going to get some guys together that we love hanging out on Saturdays. Like, shit, let's smoke some cigars. To like, you're now reshaping the cigar industry. It's unreal. It's literally, it's fucking inspiring.
It's scary. It's weird. I love it.
Give me some like what you wish you knew back when you were signing the lease to that building. Give me some like, I wish I knew that then.
I think the biggest. So one of the things that made me a little more confident, I left out this piece of story, was the guy who owned Ashes before. Mm-hmm. He was going through some rough sales periods, I'll say it that way. And so quite literally, he knew he could make more money playing poker on a Monday night than opening the store. And when you're a small business, you got to figure out what you got to do to pay rent. Sometimes it's not what you want to do. Yep. I was also working remotely at the time with Lockheed, so I would work from the cigar shop. So it got to the point where like Mondays and Tuesdays, I actually ran the shop for him while I was doing my Lockheed work. And if you came in on Monday or Tuesday in that shop, you knew I wasn't going to give you service. I was literally working, but I would hop up and ring out your cigar for you real quick. So I learned a lot about the business before I went into it. And that's probably my biggest advice. Like I tell anybody and everybody that's thinking about starting a business, I'm like, have you done it before?
Correct.
Because if you haven't done it before, and if you've done it before, why are you doing it again? Like hopefully you have a totally different concept, but
get at least some exposure to it.
Yeah,
Would
go
you say
work
just
for free.
business in general, or the industry you're thinking about hopping into?
The specific thing that you want.
So like, if you want to do architecture, you want to do,
you want to do architecture, you go down and you talk to Brian Design Blends and you say, hey man, give me any of your employees. I want to sit next to them. I'll make sure their water cup is always full. I want to pay attention to their coffee, whatever it is. Like I want to be part of it and just shadow them and be part of it. Like whatever it is, whatever that job is, and jobs too, right? Like if you're like, I wish that was a requirement before going to college. Like I went to Purdue to be an engineer and didn't quite know exactly what that meant I was going to do.
Yeah.
Like I should have been required to go sit in an engineering firm my summer out of high school before going to college to see like, no, I don't want to be like these guys when I grow up.
I mean, if we were really taking our education seriously in this country, it should be a requirement, honestly, with the schools and with like, give businesses even an incentive to do it. Like, give me a fucking break on my taxes. If you give me, I'll take 10 high school kids tomorrow, but I don't, but fucking cut out some of my tax money to offset the bandwidth that my team's going to lose 100%. In generating profit, right? Like, let's make this work for everybody.
No, it's
like,
a big
what the
deal.
hell, like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think the business side too is important. So like Smoke has actually generated lots of businesses. A lot of my employees have went off to start their own businesses, which I love. I'm losing my greatest employee ever because I really wanted him to start his own business, which is a double-edged sword, but I am so happy for him. So learning the business side is also equally important because that is where you will go out of business very quickly. Like you don't deserve to pay yourself a salary until all your bills are paid. You don't deserve to get a new car probably for a long time. Like don't get a new car when you make your first 100 grand. It's a terrible idea.
Talk about you making your first 100 grand. When was it? When'd you be like, wow, I got 100 grand sitting here?
Yeah. So we were trying to we thought the next variable of Smoke should be to get a liquor license. And so I cut my salary back. I downsized my entire life. I got roommates at my house, 3 people living in my Manioc row home. So 1 in the basement and 2 in the spare bedrooms, simplified every aspect of my life. And it went into hardcore money saving mode. And it was weird and not fun at times, but it was cool. And I just did it with brute force. And that's how I do most things. If you know me, that's how I am.
Brute force is how you hack into stuff.
Yeah, it's how you do it. It's the best way to hack. It's most successful. And just literally like every month you'd see the bank account go up, and I'll like never forget when we broke 100 grand in the bank account because we were saving for a liquor license. This is a big deal. And that was it, man. No wild, cool story for me on that, but it was a monumental day.
How many years did that take you, or a year? Like what was that span of you like?
I hit that by end of year 1. We knew that we needed to do something different to last long term. And that's where we were like, liquor license. And that was before our 3rd anniversary. But it was either pay yourself or you pay the business. You can pick. So anybody who's like struggling in the business, like look at your own life. Like what can you cut out? Like all my subscriptions canceled. I ate literally, you can ask any of my members are in there. For breakfast, I ate at the shop. It was oatmeal. I had a big tote of oatmeal in there, like quite literally this big canister I bought in bulk. For lunch, it was peanut butters and jellies. For dinner, it was peanut butter and jelly. Or one of my members would bring me in dinner and I give them half off a cigar. That was like just the deal. And it was, you got to grind to get there faster. Once you get to that point, then everything like changes. And then you see it. You're like, okay, now, and then you start applying it to the business. And
I mean, it's numbers, right? Like at the end of the day, like in any situation you're in, right? Like we're all fortunate to be in the United States. Like that's the one advantage. Everyone that's here has huge fucking advantage, right? We're not making $7 a day, right? Like fuck. Like that's crazy. Like that perspective that people need to hear. Like there's people literally 1,000 miles south of us, right? Making $7 a day.
Can't drink their own water.
Can't fucking drink their own water. And we're up here like, oh man, I turn on the faucet, click. Oh, I go outside, walk my fucking $1,000 dog. Like, like it's crazy, right? Like, dude, we're like, wait a second. And we got problems now. Like, look at your fucking habits. Look at yourself. Like, we do not have problems here. The problems are you. Right? It's like, look at what you're doing.
Yeah, we have problems. Every country's got problems, but ours are the whole first world problem thing. That's a real thing. Like now, if you have like emotional things and all that, that's a whole separate animal, but that also happens to them too, man. Imagine going through whatever emotional mess you're going through and you get home and you can't drink your water.
Yeah, you
don't
gotta
have
go
lights and
fucking
you have
hike
dirt
a mile
floors
to get some fucking water.
Yeah, so like how bad are your, like even those, at least you have the comforts of like you can go to your bed at night and like have air conditioning, right? That was a huge shift in my life, quite honestly, was when I went down. And if you've never been to a third world country, like call me, you can join me on a trip to Nicaragua. Like that will change your business life because you will learn what's really important.
Yep.
Things start, and we all are like, oh, things don't matter. Like, yeah, they do. They matter a lot. That's why we want to make more money so we can go buy more things. But seeing that lifestyle like really shifted it and made me start learning how to live more frugally, because then I take that $100,000 and I can then put it into creating the Cream Dragon. Mm-hmm. Now I have, a high profit margin item that gives me a return on that $100,000. Mm-hmm. So it's all those little things, like you just got to put it all together. And when you put it all together, it starts making really clear sense.
Love that. What's the next 10 years look like for you? Have you thought that far ahead? Like, what do you want to do at the end of all this? Like,
chaos, man.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Pure chaos.
Yeah, I love chaos.
I mean, you want to travel the world? Like, what do you want to do?
Yeah. So our goal, engaged.
Congrats.
Thank you. About to get married. Kimberly's dope. She makes my life great. But we are officially at a point she is allowed to work remotely with her job, mm-hmm. and crushing at her job. Toro is something I can do from anywhere in the world. And Smoke is in a sustainable state right now. So first goal is to do a little bit of real estate investing with some of the money I've saved up from Toro over time, just to build in some things in my life to pay me back. But our big move is going to be buying a sailboat.
You want to sail around the world?
We're doing the sailboat.
And it makes sense. You're already impacting the world, and you've been impacting the world your whole career.
Now you got to see it.
Now you got to see what's going on.
Yeah, so we'll get a sailboat and then get rid of all the day-to-day grind stuff. It turns out, I mean, people are like, oh, that's crazy. I wish I could get on a sailboat. I'm like, you could if you wanted. It's not that hard. I mean, you might not get the same boat I'm going to get, but that's because I've worked and had roommates for the last 10 years while you had your house to yourself and had a brand new car. And I've been driving a 1991 Jeep Wrangler that breaks down every 3 days, and I walk to work. But I went through that grind, so I've been saving money to get here. But you can, that sailboat will be less than what my house is worth, which is wild. And the maintenance on it is less than what I'll spend in gas and taxes living mm-hmm. in the States. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be a big, huge, crazy change. I'm going to learn and see if I can run a software company from the ocean.
Love that.
Elon's Starlink is on fire right now, so you get better internet than I can get in Philadelphia anywhere in the ocean. Yeah, literally. So that's the big plan for life. Probably throw a kid in the mix in there. For business, all kinds of crazy stuff. Toro, my goal is 75 stores by 45. I've had that for like the last 5 years. I'm on track, but it's coming up close. I turned 45 in July, so cross fingers.
It's only 10 more stores. Come on, you got that.
Yeah, got a chunk to go. But I'm closing a chain, and if that happens, then I'll blow it out, but who knows. So Toro, just to keep growing it, to get it more streamlined. Right now I am Toro, so I am the demo guy, I am the developer.
You don't have any employees in Toro, it's just you.
Not a single employee. So I do the dev, I do the help calls, I have my phone here because I'm not addicted to my phone. I hate cell phones, but I have to look because like right now I have 20 messages from 18 chats on WhatsApp, and I do all my support through WhatsApp, so I can do it from anywhere in the world. So I have 20 messages of stores that are having questions that are going to listen to this one day and be like, that's why you didn't
get back to me for 57 minutes.
I'm the accountant on it. I'm the developer. I'm the marketing side of it. So I'm all pieces of it, and it's overwhelming. So building out infrastructure.
Your story is freaking inspiring. It really is. It proves that what a simple idea can truly lead to. Again, back to the vision, right? Your vision wasn't what it is today, but your first initial vision, you had something that was bigger than what was just you. And I feel like that's what a lot of people lose. A lot of people forget, use your imagination that we were all taught as kids, right? You go to school, you go to work, you're taught to forget about your imagination, but actually that's what truly drives magical stuff in this world.
Yeah, and the imagination's where...
This story if this isn't proof of it, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
truly.
It's that old saying, the best inventions were built out of necessity, right?
Absolutely.
Figure out what in your business sucks, what is eating up the most amount of your time, in your life. It doesn't have to be in your business, whatever it is. Like what sucks and what's consuming your time, and how do you do that better? And does it exist? And if it doesn't, that's where you should put your next amount of time. It's all about buying your time back. Yep. You're going to run out of it. So keep buying it back. And if you can build a business to help you buy it back and make some money while you're buying it back, even cooler. I went from 20 hours a week of inventory to I don't do inventory now. My store does its own inventory. So it's just figure out where you can filter your time to get the most bang for your buck and buy time back, man. Time's everything.
Well, because we're gonna have you back on. I want you back here when you're at 250 stores. Hopefully it's next week, but
see you Tuesday.
Appreciate it. Thanks for all the knowledge, man. It's truly inspiring. I'm looking forward to seeing your continued success.
Proud of you as well, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.